Call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Belsley.
Here.
Hare.
Here.
Herman.
Here.
Kaufman.
Here.
Newhouse.
Here.
Yarko.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Tonight, we do not have any public hearings, but we do have a presentation tonight by the about the downtown Morton Plaza. And Mr. Brown, are you doing the presentation? Fantastic.
We wanted to bring everybody up to date with our design work for the downtown plaza. We had a public, I guess we would call it open house last Friday night downtown. We had a lot of people stop by. We had a lot of good comments, and we've had some pretty good feedback along the way with responses. So we were going to just run you through the design very quickly. This is just the overall plan, and we're going to zoom in and look at it a little bit tighter, but as we work our way through this, Main Street is on your upper left. First Street is on the bottom right. We are using all the property that you've currently purchased, and we're also using property which is currently Washington Street coming through, and then the parking lot, which is owned by the Wassee people over behind along First Street to make this work. I think most of you have seen this, so I'll just kind of walk you through because I know you have a lot on your agenda tonight. We wanted to show you, this is what it looks like coming in from the Main Street side. You come through an entryway, a gated entryway. We're just not going to see this too well, are we? You can see all the major components. We've got the main gated entryway, our interactive water feature that's visible from Main Street. We've got covered tables and seating along the sides so people can sit in the shade and not have to be out in the sun all the time. The Veterans Memorial is incorporated right in behind the water feature, so it's really front and center in this design. We have two buildings in there right now. One is dedicated for a restroom building. The second is a mechanical storage building, because with pumps, lighting, and all that fun stuff, we need places to put mechanicals that are out of the way. So we'll be putting those off to the side. And we're still working through concepts, but the gated entries might take on some looks like this, and we'll show you our 3D model here toward the end as how things might start to come together along the way. There's a blue piece right there in the middle. We call these water steps. Part of the design, what we want to look at, we want an interactive water feature that can take on several different looks. So these steps along the front, while they may not be stone like that, they'd be maybe more like concrete. They could have water turned on, they could have water turned off. We could shut all the water off in the water feature if we wanted to at any time and use it as a gathering space. We could run the water real low and lit at night if we wanted to create a backdrop for the memorial, or we could run it full wide open during the day and let the kids play in it. So we could have multiple looks and multiple feels throughout the time. Our shade seating along the edge, and these are just some examples. We want to look at a cantilever type of shade so that we don't have any posts in the middle of these that are looking out over the water feature. And then we'll probably look at, while this might be a stock piece, we'll customize it with the columns coming up, probably with brick, stone, and things like that, so that we can start to marry the architecture from the buildings, the columns, the stage that you'll see in a few minutes throughout the whole piece along the way. The water feature, which is right there in the middle. Again, we're calling this an interactive water feature, and I just threw up a couple of examples. We really want this thing not only to change throughout time, but it can change throughout the day, so it can be lit at night. I mean, we all know what this place down here is like, till 9, 10 o'clock at night with people downtown. We want to take advantage of that, and so we want to light this in such a way that it can be used really 24/7 if we wanted to at some point in time. But as you can see in the lower left-hand picture, we can also set it up so if kids want to come down and play, we can turn it on to do that as well. The memorial is right in behind the interactive water feature. And that was some of the feedback that we got from the community, that they liked the integration of the water feature in the memorial. We've met with the veterans and here in town about that because this is something different. Typically when you go in and see a memorial, it's a separate piece by itself, more of a solemn, quiet place. We've had a lot of very healthy discussion about it, and they are on board. They really like the idea of having this memorial piece right there where people are participating. And so the trick, and we're still working through some of the details, will be that you can go into the memorial without having to go through the water feature to get there. So you can remain dry through that whole process. What we're looking at, like the memorial that we had originally designed out here for Birchwood, where the arrow from Memorial points down, that's the American flag. The branches come out to the 5 different service branches, which would have columns with each of their individual flags. But in the middle, between each of those flags, we want to do a series of glass outdoor walls. And we want to use this to create an educational opportunity. We can put the names of the fallen up by the American flag, but we can use the glass, we can etch it, we can sculpt it, we can mold it, we can light it from within, from the bottom. But this is our opportunity to teach people about the history of the conflicts that we've been part of, where Morton has been part of that, and even just as a country as a whole. And what we're also finding is if you're going for grant money, if you can have an educational component to that, those applications seem to go a little higher up the ladder along the way. So that's our educational component to do such. Down along First Street, toward the back of this, we have a small covered stage area for the back, and we want to create a small amphitheater kind of effect. Granted, you have a pretty flat piece of property, but if we take the memorial and we pop it up in the air 2 or 3 feet, we have enough fall in the back that we can create some nice terrace seating going down to that area, and we can easily probably sit 200 or 300 people back in this spot. It's not as big as some of the parks are, but it could certainly be a nice, cordial space along the way for that. We'll have a covered stage, but again, something pretty simple along the way. And there you can kind of see the transition, the mechanical buildings off to the side. So we can still use that mechanical building if we had features in the stage that need to be buried away. It's close enough we can make those kind of runs for utility work. The stage itself might take on a look something like this. That particular, in fact, it would be very similar to this. The cover itself is a pre-manufactured unit with a company we've worked with in the past. Then they customize the columns and the backdrops around that. But it's a simple open air type of structure. Nothing too dramatic, nothing too hard to take care of, nothing too easily for anybody to hide inside and do things we don't want them to do along the way. And then off to the side, if we can acquire the parking lot, this would give us an area that we could build 2 playgrounds, 2 play areas, a 6 to 12-year-old and a 2 to 5 playground over here. They wouldn't be huge, but they would certainly be useful. And some of the elements that you might start to see to happen in these, up at the very top on the right hand is my granite ball. You can get these in all kinds of different sizes. We put this over in the 2 to 5 year area. We pump a little bit of water in below, and you can spin this thing. And I've seen this in some of the children's museums around the country, and it's just fun to watch them try to figure out the strength and the power and the coordination needed to make it work. We want to keep in that theme of pumpkins. We are Morton, Illinois pumpkins, and on the left, in the 2 to 5 year old, we would probably look at could we create some custom type sculptures that represent pumpkins, but kids can climb and play on. Over in the 6 to 12 year old playground, if we back up just a little bit, we probably, the 2 brown structures there at the top, we're looking at a couple simple treehouse type platforms where we can have kids climb, put a rope bridge between. But around that, we would like to do a outdoor music type of area, which is what you see along the bottom. And there are some really interesting musical instruments that are permanent these days, but they're also tough and durable, so you don't have to take them in. We're not creating a lot of maintenance for ourselves, but they can go out there and have all kinds of music and have fun with it. And they're accessible, as you can see, for ADA issues along the way. So that's the overall, how it starts to look. As part of our work that we're going to have for the Pumpkin Festival, this is the start of our 3-dimensional model. And so you can see we're starting to put the platform and the basic buildings in place right now. And there's more of an aerial view. We still have a long way to go with this model, but the good news is it all fits. We're working on budget right now, but we'll have that done fairly shortly. But this model, then what we will do for the Pumpkin Festival, it will be an animation. We will actually have you flying through, walking through, flying above. We'll create a whole looping animation of this thing from start to finish with all the components in there that we've been talking about along the way, so that everybody that sees this will have some idea conceptually what this thing is going to look like along the way. So we've come a long way. We've had a lot of great community input. We still have quite a bit of work to do, but we wanted to give you an update where we are at. And that's really, I don't want to waste any more of your time. If you have questions, we are more than glad to answer them tonight.
On the Veterans Memorial, will you see a different image on the front and the back of that wall, or is it glass and you're just going to see the same thing from both sides?
You would see the same thing from both sides. And the reason we went to the glass, if you remember the birchwood version, we had big granite pieces between all the flags. And our fear was here that as you're coming in off of Main Street, we didn't want to block that view all the way through to the stage. And so that's why we went to the glass, so we could lighten that up a little bit. And ultimately, it probably cost us a little bit less as well.
And is that stage area quite a bit smaller than what they're planning out at Idlewood Park?
I don't know. I need to see the plans. I would love to see the plans to Idlewood, because it probably would be nice to have a comparison. We are going to meet with the Park District probably tomorrow night, and I'll ask them for that information so we have a comparison on size down the road. I would venture to say ours is probably smaller than theirs. Yes, sir.
Bruce, once we have the public viewing at the Pumpkin Festival, what are the next steps? Can you give an idea of the timeline? What follows?
Sure. What we're obligated to deliver to you is a concept, which we're well on the way in the concept, and then we're going to go into just enough design development drawings with our engineers that we can price everything. You know, how big does the footing need to be? Not, well, we think it ought to be this. So we'll finish up our pricing exercise late this month, early September, along with the animations and drawings, so that you'll have the graphic, you'll have a marketing piece that you can use the animation, and we'll have final renderings of this, so you can go and apply for grants. My understanding, and Jennifer, you feel free to jump in here, is you're looking at 2014 would be probably the earliest start date. That gives you a year to apply for grants, go through the funding exercise, come to some agreements probably with the veterans as far as their input into pieces as well. They've got their paver program in place that they probably need to kick up and get going as well. So I think 2014 would be your earliest start. The question will be how, do we phase it or do it all at once? Those would be logistics. Yeah. I would say once we're done with design development, if you came back and said get started, we would need probably 2 to 3 months to finish construction drawings and get them ready to bid.
Thank you.
But the hard work would be done. Any other questions or comments?
You said you had a lot of feedback Friday night down at the plaza when you were able to show people. Is there another way that people can continue to provide input?
I believe it's gone out on the web this week. So the last time we put this out, just for asking for the elements to go in there, we got over 500 responses. I'm used to working in communities where we get 10 or 12, so 500 was almost overwhelming. And thankfully, Larry kind of summarized them all into a spreadsheet for us, so that was pretty cool. It'll be on the web. We will certainly take advantage of any other public facilities or gatherings during the month of August. We did sort of make a choice we were going to go to Arts in the Park, but we didn't want to conflict with the bandshell project, and I think that's a wise move to do at this point. So we're going to the Park District tomorrow night just as an informational meeting. If there's any other groups along the way you want us to take this and show it to, we would be more than happy to do that along the way.
Thank you.
We're very, I know this has been a sort of a tedious process to get the property nailed down and what we're doing, but I think all of us that have been working on it within the Farnsworth group, we're very pleased with where it's going. We think you're going to get a really nice piece out of this, and we'll get more restrooms for Jeff before it's all said and done. He gave me an earful the other night. One thing that this body will have to come to grips with, and as with the city, we will probably have some variances that we're going to need for building setbacks, stormwater, utility issues, and we will, as part of our work, we will deliver a full list of what we think are needed for permits and variances along the way so that you can, we don't want you to do anything that's not above board here, so that you can talk those through. I don't think there's anything earth-shaking here, but we probably have violated code in a couple of spots, a little bit, so we need to work through that. Anybody else? Jennifer, did you want to throw anything in here tonight?
Maybe just mention the website, mortonedc.org, where they can go to survey and look at plans.
Everybody heard that right? mortonedc.org. And we have the plans out there, and we will keep the plans out there. And we're soliciting comments through this Friday at noon, for this go-around. No other questions, I'll let you get on with your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll let you shut the light on. I'm in the spotlight enough. Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you.
Okay, public comments. It's time for public comments. Anyone like to speak? Please come forward, give your name and that.
Good evening. Bob Bright, 137 West Chicago Street, Morton. I'm here tonight to praise the village, especially Ginger, for putting together the electric aggregation program. I got a bill that showed a big savings. One further request. Your sound system is not very good tonight. I'm sitting back here, can't hear what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob, but I definitely want to give credit to our staff, particularly Wendy and Craig, and it was definitely a team effort on getting that municipal aggregation cost savings for our citizens. So I'm glad that there's people out there that appreciate that and that they're saving money. That was the point.
Any others? Okay, hearing none, we'll go down to request for removal of items from the consent agenda. The consent agenda tonight is approval of the regular meeting minutes of July 16th and the approval of the special meeting minutes of July 30th, approval of bills. There's no ordinances, one resolution, which is a resolution authorizing the first amendment to water tower lease agreement, and under other business, acceptance of the right-of-way dedication at 312 East Washington Street. Are there any of these items that anyone in the audience like to move down to action item 8, consideration of items removed from the consent agenda? Hearing none. Does the board have any items they'd like to move down? May I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Belsley.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yes.
Newhouse.
Yes.
Jarko.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Motion passed. I have nothing tonight, Mr. Clerk.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Madam Treasurer.
Tonight, I'm asking for approval to transfer $1,144,000 from the general fund, $308,000 from the water and wastewater depreciation fund, and $64,000 from the stormwater depreciation fund to the capital projects fund.
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Our street work must be starting to cost us some money.
They're rolling in
You are talking to Craig about that.
all the
Keeping it
time.
down. Thank you. Roll call.
Hare.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yes.
Newhouse.
Yes.
Jarko.
Yes.
Belsley.
Yes.
Assistant Chief.
I just want to take a second to update the board that this past Saturday, we started our application process for police officer. We had about 65 applications. Of those, about 51 or so showed up. The test consisted of both the physical agility and the written test. We hope to start oral interviews probably sometime in October. So,
How many officers are you looking for?
I believe 2 at this time. So.
Okay. Is that number larger than usual, or?
That's about typical of what we've been running the last few years. We tested about 2 years ago was the last time we tested, and we had about the same amount of
Okay.
applicants. So
This keeps the number of police officers at the same number?
that would bring us to 22, that's correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Chief,
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Mr. Laudermill,
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Mr. Spangler.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Your Honor, under the zoning officer's direction here, I've become aware that the new school additions are not required by law to have electrical inspections. So what I would like to do is ask the administration of the school to have electrical inspections. I don't believe we can charge for them, so we can pay for the permits, but I think when you're spending $3 million in this community where our grade school students are sitting, that electrical should be inspected. What you're inspecting is the human element, something that was not done properly. We've known in the past, since we've started this electrical inspections, we found a hotel that the fire alarms were not wired for a couple of years. So if a fire went off, they would not have gone off. And I don't think we would find anything here like this, but we inspect everything else. We inspected our own fire station, and I think we should ask the administration of the school to allow the inspections to go ahead on these 3 additions. And so I would kind of like to request a consent agreement between the trustees that we write a letter to the school asking for electrical inspections. I realize we legally can't. We've been made aware of that, but I don't think legal and what's right agrees here. I think they should be inspected. We got $3 million worth of construction, and it is where our kids and grandkids are, and smoke kills as well as fire. And we have a volunteer fire department, and there's no reason to call them out for something that could have been found. And at the same point, buildings like this usually have a 1-year or 2-year warranty, and after those warranties are voided, if there is a problem, the taxpayers have to pay the bill. So I think in all fairness, I think the taxpayers should be covered, and I think everybody that builds anything in this community should be inspected.
I agree with that. I think it's a safety issue, and if everyone else is required to do that, I think if it's not going to be a cost to the school, it would be something that would be prudent to have them do, just to be consistent.
Looks like with the head noddings, there's some consensus on that.
Agreed.
All right, you would develop a letter, you want that under my signature, the Mr. Spangler's signature?
Both.
We can do that, it's the same price. I do want to point out a couple of points in law that Mr. Kaufman was talking about. The first is that there is a whole section of Illinois law which is called the school code. And the school code stipulates certain, well, really all the rules that the schools have to come under. And under the school code, it's the responsibility of the regional superintendent to inspect the buildings yearly. Now, that is not necessarily bringing an electrician in and inspecting, or a plumber in, or anything, but there is certain rules that school districts have to follow under the life safety code. And so the regional sup or his representative does come to every school building and inspects yearly. Second thing is it is the responsibility of the regional superintendent to do the building permit. We do not have authority over a building permit for the school districts. And as we already said, we do not have the authority for the inspections. We do not have the authority as far as the allowing the students to come into the buildings. Like right now, anything that's built, we give approval before anyone can go into the buildings once it's completed. So there are some different laws. Now, I did find out today that in a couple of the later laws in the last few years, there's a stipulation that says that we cannot charge for the inspections. If we want involvement in the buildings themselves, the construction of the buildings, we have to request of the regional superintendent copies of the blueprints, and we have 15 days to respond to those copies. If we respond and there is something that needs to be changed, it is we have no authority on forcing that change. We can only recommend changes. It's the school code, basically. So what has happened is they many years ago have taken the construction aspect of schools away from municipalities and given it to the regional superintendents. In the old days, 15, 20 years ago, the regional superintendents are who are the chair of the regional board of school trustees. The regional board of school trustees used to own the schools. The villages or cities would build the schools, but the ownership reverted to the school trustees. So that's when all of these laws started, way back when. But there has been some minor changes in the last 8 to 10 years. But again, we have no authority, and I think what you're asking, Mr. Kaufman, is that we are offered, we can't charge for an inspection. You are recommending, though, that they consider an inspection.
I'm recommending that they allow our inspector to inspect. We will pay the cost. It'll be about $1,000 probably for the 3 schools. I don't think any citizen would argue that point. But my concern is they've talked about new high schools, new junior highs. You're talking $50 to $70 million buildings for new high schools. And you tell me you're going to put 15 to 20 electricians on there and not inspect it? I think the citizens of this town would want it to be inspected, because it's a human element that somebody doesn't get something done, somebody's off a day, and I just think it's all good practice to have them inspected. These grade schools are over 50 years old that they're adding on to. I just think it's good policy that we live by our rules. I think the school board should join, because I think the community and the citizens want those inspections done. That's what pushed this drive for inspections for new houses, from electrical to plumbing. Why wouldn't we do it with our youngest kids are 1 through 6th grade? It just seems the right thing to do. And I think if we get it in practice, as they build and remodel facilities, they get them inspected, and the citizens can rest easy.
Okay. If our administrative group will develop a letter, and if you'd be kind enough to pass that on to Mr. Kaufman for his approval, and then Roger, you and I will sign it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, under trustees, Mr. Belsley.
I just wanted to echo some of the comments that Jason shared earlier. I was there for a portion of the testing, officer testing on Saturday, and this is something that has been done, as Jason shared, every 2 years. State law requires that, and we've used the high school facility to carry that out. We've used their cafeteria for the written test, the track, and their weight room. And just wanted to, I guess, publicly thank them. This is a nice little example of intergovernmental cooperation, and it's something that we've done for years. It's worked very well, and by all accounts, Saturday's activities went very well. And again, just thank you to District 709 for use of their facilities for this.
Okay. That it?
That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Hare.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Mrs. Herman.
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Mr. Kaufman.
A couple items tonight, Your Honor. First, I hope everybody has been able to see our new black awnings on our Village Hall office building. I don't think I mentioned that before, but we replaced the old ripped green ones. We did not request an awning proposal from our grant money, so the village did pay for that. And it was interesting, we purchased them from Peoria Awning, and it happens to be owned by Mr. Mark Hutchinson, who was a village trustee for 6 years. So I think they turned out nice. We actually have the Village Hall letters on there, so visiting businesses or individuals would be easily to be able to find the hall.
Looks good.
The second item we have tonight, Your Honor, is our garbage contract. Currently, we have it with Area Disposal Services and Grimm Brothers Trucking, which is a division. We have Mr. Mark Grimm and Mr. Matt Coulter in the audience tonight, and we're trying to, or asking for a consensus for a proposal for a new contract with Grimm Brothers. We had a committee we formed, myself, Trustee Newhouse, and Superintendent of Public Works, Craig Laudermilk. The three of us have been working on this for several months, looking at different ideas and proposals. The existing contract is 5 years with 2 one-year options. It has been the same cost for 7 years. There's been no increase in costs, and I think we all realize wages, gas, all kinds of things have gone up in 7 years. So the committee consensus was Mr. Newhouse checked with other communities, services. He went to some extent. There was nobody anywhere that was going to give it to us at the current rate. Our costs were definitely going to go up. So as a committee, we decided, as we look at increased costs, what were going to be some of the new services we would want. And we looked at different services. So as Mr. Newhouse would call it, some were non-negotiables. So one of them, 15 years ago, we started the yard waste program where we have it spring and fall. So this year, we would like to start the yearly cleanup day in Morton. So there'd be a day where you could set anything out along the curb, your bulky items, and they would be taken away. Now, those are anything that is legal to put in the landfill. And I think all of us know what a lot of those items are not legal, and that would be like tires, paint, batteries, appliances, yard waste, hazardous materials, or electronic waste. They're banned. But we'll be addressing some of those too. So number one change would be yearly cleanup day. Number two, we decided that we had to have maintain an existing local office. If you remember with our Comcast, they got rid of their office after a couple of years. So we're having it in the contract that the local office and site had to be open in Morton for the extension of the contract. And at that location, we've requested more containers for cardboard. They will have yard waste, which they do now. I don't know if citizens realize that, but you can dump your yard waste there for a $1.75 sticker on a 32-gallon container. So we not only offer the 2 yearly free ones, but you can take a garbage can, 32, and dump it at their office. That will continue. But we've also added e-waste, electronics, which would be involved televisions, monitors, printers, computers, keyboards, fax machines, digital players, scanners, several things. And we'll have an educational process to list that. Also, appliances, if they have no Freon, you can drop them off at that site, or they will pick them up for $25. If you have an appliance that has Freon, they will negotiate with some recyclers to pick them up for $25. So what we're trying to do is get the bulky item issue cleaned up, the village cleaned up, and have a drop-off site. The other...
Jeff, that was approximately $25.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct, Mark?
Right. We're talking generals. So the other item is oil drop-off, that the citizens of Morton can drop their oil off there. And one of the reasons for that is we do not want the oil dumped into our creeks. If you remember right, we spent about $250,000 for an EPA study for combined storm, sewer, and that, and we don't want to be fined in the future of the contract for something that's dumped and that's tested in our creeks. So we're trying to look ahead in the length of this contract, what items we don't want in our creeks. So we tried to address that. Then hazardous waste, which is like paints and fluids, we're going to have in the contract, which we're proposing a 7-year contract with 3 one-year options to be a 10-year contract. We'd have 2 hazardous waste collections during that contract. We can have more if we want to pay for them, but that would be where the citizens could collect their excess paints and fluids, and every couple of years we'll have a place where we can get rid of those. The other thing we wanted to address was auto deduct, that citizens can have it automatically deducted from the savings, their bill, from a savings or checking account. And Mr. Newhouse might have something to say about that. And so that was how the citizens can pay for it, because I believe now about 60% of the citizens do that to pay their village water bills and that. So we're trying to address an easy pay there. Also, if you want we wanted to get rid of the blowing garbage complaints. What we have now is where you have your stickers, you can get a tote, and then we have our recyclables in totes. So what we're proposing in this contract is that all citizens are required to have a 65-gallon tote for garbage and a 65-gallon tote for recyclables. The recyclable tote will have an orange lid. You can dump your plastics, your glass, your paper, all in it. So it'll be 2 totes that can be wheeled to the streets. You'll no longer be able to use the little orange plastic tubs. They'll be so we're proposing that, and then if that is not enough garbage for your family, you can rent an additional garbage tote for $750 or an additional recyclable tote for $250. The idea here is to keep our recyclables where it's at. You have to remember we get $22,000 grant money for our recycling and that to help pay for the yard waste off the dump fees. So that's the major change. Now, in that, we asked for a senior discount. So some of the seniors 65 years and older can request a 35-gallon garbage and a 35-gallon recyclable. Also, we have flexible start-stop. And you say, what's that? Well, that's if you go to Florida or Arizona for 4 months, you can call Grimm Trucking and they will stop your garbage for 4 months and you will have no expense for 4 months. The beauty of these totes are that they maintain them. So if your teenage son backs out of the garage and demolishes the totes, you call Grimm's and they deliver you another one, no questions asked. If your tires break, whatever, they're going to maintain the totes over the lifetime of the contract. So there's no expense to the citizens switching to the totes. The expense will be, the new fee per month will be $15 a month compared to right now for the totes at $11.50. Now, we still have the sticker program, so if you have additional garbage, you can have a 32-gallon can and put a sticker on it. The current sticker price is $270. The new sticker price will be $305 for the garbage. You can do that with your yard waste, will be $250, where right now it's $2. So there's some little difference there. So you can get rid of your yard waste that way. You can deliver it to Grimm's office, or you can pile it up and wait for our annual freebies in the spring and fall. Now, we also addressed the issue of some people mow the grass continually and have a lot of yard waste and they like to get rid of it. You can rent a third tote just for yard waste for about $20 a month approximately, but you have to do it for a minimum of 3 months. So that those people that have the sprinkler systems and really keep it, there's a way to get rid of their grass. So we've tried to address several of them. We've come to the conclusion that the $15 rate is is cheaper than a lot of communities around, especially for the additional services. We've also been talking to the fire chief about a medical drop-off out of the fire station, which we have to work through. And
it's available currently.
Is it
in
current
place
belly?
now, and could be dropped off in reasonable amounts during regular business hours at our main station.
Right, and that's like needles, pills, and that stuff.
Needles.
Needles,
Yeah,
okay.
we can't take pills, but
Okay.
needles are what we call sharps. Anything
Okay.
sharp like that.
So we've tried to address that for those people. So consensus is that the committee's recommending that we go to all totes. So the
Wheelie bins.
yes, the wheels, so that we're not having the plastics and the bags and the paper blowing into somebody else's yards. We ask that the citizens keep the lids closed so we don't have that problem where they keep the lids open and you got another 2 feet of garbage. We do not want blowing garbage in Morton. So, have I talked enough? Do you want to say something? I'll let you address this here if you want, and if you whatever else you have to say.
Oh, yes. Thank you. We did a fair amount of research, and I think we started this last year sometime. We looked at a number of communities in central Illinois, looked at more than one contractor. Lowest price garbage pickup any place, throw it at the curb, no other services, is about $11. The highest charge community I found was Streeter at $17.25, which includes yard waste. Most people were in the $14, $15 range and did not, in my estimation, include the range of services that we've got in this contract. So we feel that the $15 rate is pretty comfortable. There is a parallel charge rate for seniors if they choose the smaller containers that would give them a $12 rate, which would match the $15 rate for the regular size during the first 2 years, and then there would be incremental increases over the life of the contract to a total of $17.37 for regular service and $14.37 for senior service. Again, we think given the total cost of waste disposal and the increasing demands in the industry for separating material and the closing of landfills or limitations on landfills in other places and other cost drivers in the industry, these are acceptable, if not favorable, contract rates. So we feel pretty comfortable. I think we've got some time before the contract's actually signed. If we have concerns or questions, we can address them. But the committee, Mr. Kaufman, Mr. Loudermilk, and I feel that we have covered most of the needs that we've heard about and most of the issues that we see as emerging waste and EPA issues. And we have also included, as Mr. Kaufman said, provision for automatic deduction from checking account, so you can set up auto pay. You don't see the bill other than on your computer or get some kind of a duplicate in the mail. The bill comes in, it's automatically paid. You don't have to worry about it, and it ensures prompt payment for the contractor. So it benefits both parties, and a lot of people do this with all their other kinds of billing, and it is for people who like to operate that way. It's a significant benefit. It also means you never have to worry about forgetting to pay your waste collection invoice. So I think
Why don't you explain what we did here with the rates for the first couple years?
Mr. Kaufman suggests I explain the provision for the rates. There are a variety of ways to calculate and assess the rates for waste collection, and we concluded that most people would probably want to have some kind of stable pricing for a period rather than having an annual escalator. And so when we proposed to our supplier, Mr. Grimm and Mr. Calder, Mr. Shangraw, that they come up with a recommendation. After a couple of reviews, we concluded that a reasonable and acceptable rate would be $15 per month in years 1 and 2, as I said earlier, and then an increase that would match the cost of increasing waste collection and management over the remaining life of the contract, with a provision for 3 one-year renewals at that ending rate. During that period, as I said, seniors would have about a $3 difference, $3 less in each year in comparison with the regular rate. So we think that's a favorable provision for folks who maybe are gone part of the time, don't produce as much waste, don't need the larger wheel bins, and of course if you're gone you have the opportunity also of terminating collection during the period that you're gone. So I think, if Mr. Loudermilk has anything else to add, I think we've pretty well covered it.
I think you've stated it well. My only thing is just to highlight recycling. I learned a lot through the 2 months, but the more we recycle, the more we can keep these contracts at a reasonable rate going forward. And I think Morton's done a good job. I think Mark and Matt would attest we're one of the leaders in that. So if we can continue that, it's going to be easier on the next contract.
And that's why we have the second tote for recycling, only
Yes.
$250. For the big families that really need more, it'd be very inexpensive. If you need another garbage, it's only $750. And the 7-year contract is nice that at 7 years, the increases end. In the last 3 years, it's the same fee. And we thought that'd be fair to both sides in case gas stabilizes, labor costs. So we have some savings here by having all these wheel carts being picked up by the truck instead of hand dumping. So we're trying to be fair on both sides of that.
How old is a senior? I want to know if I qualify.
65?
Oh.
But you do qualify for the start and stop. That's any
Okay.
age. So
Okay.
if you retire early and you're gone for a few months, that's
And the
available to
minimum
everybody.
is 1 month for the start and stop. Correct, Mark?
What'd you,
So you can start and stop for a month.
correct.
minimum.
There's no limit on that.
So anything less than a month, you can't do it. but
Right.
For 1 month.
Yeah, minimum month period. I would like to acknowledge, I think all of us would like to acknowledge PDC and Area Disposal. The representatives of those companies put a lot of work into this contract and really came back and responded to our request with some good suggestions and a lot of cooperation. And we would not be making this recommendation this evening without the initiative that they took, and particularly Mr. Grimm, who's a longtime part of the Morton community and had very clear understanding, I think, of what we wanted to do. So thank you for the very strong and favorable participation in the process.
And I think the citizens need to know, in charge of the streets and working with Superintendent Mike Engel and Craig Laudermilk, Mark Grimm helps this town a lot with a lot of issues that come up. So we appreciate Matt's going to allow Mark to run this for another 10 years.
Questions? I have one or two. Who was the other provider that gave us a proposal? And without getting into great detail, what was the difference between that proposal and this one?
The other potential supplier was Waste Management, which is also a very credible company with a lot of services. We basically set our objectives out in each case. We did not force the comparisons in negotiations. The approach that Waste Management took was very comprehensive, but it wound up with a more expensive proposal than this one by a significant amount, and did not include the Morton drop-off point, which I think everybody considered to be sort of an absolute requirement. And so, again, very favorable response, very professional people, just didn't meet our criteria. In the end, there was probably about a $5 or so or more difference in the proposals. Again, they weren't exactly the same. This is, everybody needs to understand, this is not a bid process. These were two separate proposals and different approaches. And the one we selected, obviously, is Area Disposal.
And Mr. Newhouse was very thorough on that. He took that lead, and all the checking of other communities and interest parties, they got high reviews. So there's nothing negative on them at all, we found. It was just amounted to the proposals and the cost difference, and we thought these services are what we need at this time. And I might add that Mr. Grimm still has to come up with a drawing of how you're going to be able to drive in the Grimm site and dump off from electronics to yard waste to garbage. We've requested it be labeled and have a driving pattern so the citizens, when they get there during working hours, they know how to drive around that. And we'll have an educational process.
An improved site that will make it easier for people to drop off. And people probably also need to understand that there is a small savings in dropping off your yard waste at the drop point rather than buying the sticker. I think it's about 10 or 15 cents a sticker, something like that. But it is a very useful way, especially if you have a pickup truck or an SUV and you can load stuff in the back. It's a very good way of managing waste that you don't want to put at the curb or can't put at the curb.
Is there a size limitation when you say landscape waste? Are you only talking clippings, or are you talking?
I'll let Mr. Grimm answer that.
We'll take any amount of yard waste, just like your free drop-off. There's a 4-inch diameter of the branch maximum. Otherwise, the larger stuff would either go into the landscape waste too separately if they can grind it. If not, they'll end up in the trash. But we're looking more to the grinding of it to mulch.
Okay. Other questions?
Mr.
Any
Davies?
action tonight, or?
We need, I think, kind of a consensus or general approval tonight to pursue the contract. Mr. Davies is preparing the contract, and it will come back to the village board for approval in its final form.
Looks like you have that consensus.
Thanks for all your work on this. Great job.
This is a lot of work.
Mr. Laudermilk can definitely handle the next contract. Sure, in 10 years when he's around, he knows all about garbage now.
He's a garbage expert.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Okay, Mr. Newhouse.
I have 2 items tonight. Your Honor, approval of petition 12-02ZA, which is a zoning amendment. The subsequent item there, ordinance 1210, basically they are one and the same. This is a proposal for the rezoning of the former Overcash property just west of the south and west of the Queenwood interchange, which is being acquired by 7S, the partners that were formerly Precision Planting. And I am very happy to announce that they've chosen Morton for their headquarters. This site will be their corporate office. It will include a training center. It will have some other business development type functions, including the possibility of an incubator, and will become a substantial business asset, I think, to Morton. The zoning approval moves it from the former RS rating to B3, and trustees will probably remember that formerly we had most of, if you think of the land use map, we had most of the property along the freeway corridor 155 designated as potential business or industrial zoning in any case. So in my mind, this is consistent with that original intention and an excellent use of the property, and just absolutely delighted to recommend approval on behalf of 7S. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Herman.
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yes.
Newhouse.
Yes.
Yarko.
Yes.
Belsley.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Last item, Your Honor, is preliminary and final plat approval for the Smallenberger subdivision. You have that large-scale plat map in front of you. This is basically a compliance issue. It's in the county, but within our mile-and-a-half jurisdiction. And it is simply documentation on our part that it is consistent with our requirements, and it is. Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Kaufman.
Yes.
Newhouse.
Yes.
Yarko.
Yes.
Belsley.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Your Honor, I just have one question on that. I think we should have council look at annexation of property such as this, when it's right here in town, how we go about, I don't know, of annexing that property. We don't want it to get so large and still in the county when we do our road construction and any improvements there. I just think we need to look at what is our ramifications of annexing property. We have subdivisions around it, we have parks, so I would like a consensus from the attorney what those.
We can have him look that over.
Thank you.
So it's okay to do one motion for your two items then?
Yes.
Okay.
They're not really two items, it's two sides of one item.
All right. Mrs. Yarko?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. Okay, closed sessions tonight, discussing the appointment, employment, compensation, performance, and dismissal under Section 2C1. Closed session for the purpose of purchase or lease of real property under 2C5, and purpose discussing the real property owned by the public body for 2C6. May I have a motion to go into closed
moved, Your
session?
Honor.
Second?
Roll call.
Newhouse.
Yes.
Yarko.
Yes.
Belsley.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Hoffman.
Yes.
We will not have any action afterwards. Those of you that the village board meeting is your life, we're going to be changing the September 3rd meeting to September 4th. And so your Monday night TV will be the next day, I guess, or vice versa. So in short, Labor Day is on the 3rd, September the 4th will be our first meeting in September. With that, have a good evening.